Level 1, $0. There are 9 levels of wealth, and the cruel part isn't that nobody loves you at the bottom. One person does, and you won't understand what that was worth until it's the only thing your money can't buy back. At 0, she splits the check because she insists. At 10 million, a firm runs a background check on her before the second date. Her name is Hannah. You met her behind the counter of the coffee shop where you killed your lunch breaks paint on her jeans, a mural in the garage out back nobody pays her for. Your first date cost $12 and lasts 3 hours. She brings $8 wine she picked for the fox on the label, and you fall asleep on a $200 couch. You cook pasta. It's just a Tuesday. 6 months in, she moves in, and you call it fate, even though the rent just got cheaper split 2 ways. Love and a coupon, same week, too broke to tell them apart. This isn't a story about gold diggers. It's about what money quietly does to 2 people trying to love each other honestly. She has no idea who you're about to become. Neither do you. And that's what you'll spend the rest of your life trying to buy back. Level 2, $25,000. You take her to a restaurant. A real one. Cloth napkins. The menu does not have dollar signs, which is its own kind of warning, because no prices means if you have to ask, you cannot afford it. You checked online before you arrived anyway, like it was an exam. This is the first time you have planned a date around how it looks rather than what it costs. On paper, you clear $3,000 more a year than she does. It should mean nothing. But it was never the number that mattered, it is the direction it points. And yours has started pointing somewhere hers never will. Hannah notices. She says, "This is nice." She means it. She also means this is different. Something shifted and she can feel it, but she cannot name it. You are performing a version of yourself that has a salary now, and the salary changed how you hold the menu, how you order the wine, how you say we will take the check instead of splitting it. You pay. She lets you. The letting is new. At 0, she insisted on splitting because equality was the only currency either of you had. Now you have a different currency, and the equality has a crack in it that neither of you mentions. Your couple friends are at your level now. You host one of these dinners on a Saturday. 4 couples. $80 of groceries you did not blink at. And halfway through, you realize Hannah has not spoken in 20 minutes. She is an artist. She makes $22,000 a year. Your colleagues' partners are analysts, marketers, nurses. They talk about retirement matches and the down payment math on a place across the river. Hannah talks about the mural once, and the table turns to her and goes, "Oh, an artist that warm, terrible voice you would use on a 6-year-old who says he is going to be a dinosaur." The kindness has a texture to it that feels exactly like distance. Couples with a wide income gap separate far more often, and the larger the gap, the worse the odds. You did not need a study. You watched it across your own dinner table. In the silence between the one who could follow the conversation and the one who could not. You stop noticing her the moment you start noticing the gap. A pause where there used to be a laugh. A subject she cannot follow that you do not bother to translate. You tell yourself it is nothing. Then one night she is asleep and you open your phone and you Google average salary fine artist like you were looking up a diagnosis. And in a way, you are. You do not know why you searched it. You read 3 results. You close the tab. You put the phone face down and you stare at the ceiling and feel something you do not have a word for, something that is not contempt and is not love, something that lives in the exact dollar distance between 22,000 and what you just got promised at your review. The search is the first symptom. You will close a lot of tabs in the years ahead, and they all start here, a number you went looking for at night, next to a woman with paint under her fingernails, and no idea you are already doing the math. Level 3, $100,000. You start meeting different women. Not intentionally, but the gym is different now, the neighborhood, the conferences. The women in these places have graduate degrees and job titles and opinions about index funds. They are interesting and sharp. They have a vocabulary Hannah does not, because Hannah spent her 20s painting and you spent yours building a company. Neither path was wrong, but they no longer run parallel. You are still with Hannah, but the gap has a sound now. It sounds like the silence after you mention your bonus and she says, "That is great," in the exact tone you would use if a friend told you he beat a video game. Supportive, proud, a little unclear on why you were telling her. That bonus was $18,000, almost as much as she made all year, and no sentence makes that comfortable to sit inside. She says one evening, "Do you still like who I am, or do you like who I was when we were the same?" You do not answer immediately. The hesitation is the answer. She hears it. She does not bring it up again. She just gets quieter in a way you mistake for peace. You take her to your firm's holiday party. Everyone is talking about a fund that tripled, a house someone bought in cash. Hannah stands by the window with a glass of wine she did not choose, smiling at people who forget her name twice. On the drive home, you realize you spent the whole night translating her to the room she is an artist. Translation, please. Nobody asked her about her retirement account softening her into someone who fit, and then you stopped and just let her sit there untranslated because it was easier and worse. You meet a woman named Claire at a conference, a product manager, $91,000 a year. She asks about your work, understands the answer, references a book you have been meaning to read. She splits the check without being asked, and the splitting feels different than it ever did with Hannah. When Hannah split the check, it was rent money. When Claire splits it, it is a TED talk about equality that only works because both people can afford to give it. You do not pursue Claire. Not yet. But you think about the conversation for 4 days, and the thinking is the second symptom. Hannah moves out on a Sunday. She does not cry. She folds her sweaters into a box you bought together, and she says, "I think you need someone who speaks your language now." She is talking about money. She does not say the word. She does not have to. You help her carry the boxes down to a friend's car. You hug her on the curb, and it is the kind of hug that already knows it is the last one. Then you go back upstairs and stand in the apartment that is suddenly too quiet and too clean, and the second bottle she once bought, $8, the fox on the label, still on the counter, half full, because neither of you could ever bring yourselves to finish it. You will pour it out months later. You will tell yourself it had gone bad. It had not gone bad. You will stand at the sink and watch $8 go down the drain and understand for one clean second that it was never about the $8. Then the second will pass, and you will get back to work. Level 4, $500,000. You are dating Claire now. She earns $120,000, up from the $91,000 she made the day you met her at that conference, because Claire's number climbs too, just slower than yours. She has a Roth retirement account, an opinion about real estate, and a credit score she will tell you about unprompted. She texts in complete sentences. She does not need you for anything, which is precisely why the relationship works. You admire each other's trajectories the way two companies admire a merger. You go on vacation together. You book the hotel. It costs $400 a night. She walks into the room and says, "This is great." But you also notice that she checks the minibar prices. $9 for a Toblerone, and here is a woman one zip code from a yacht, defending herself against a chocolate bar on principle. Honestly, respect. The checking is not anxiety. It is habit. She grew up middle class, and the habit will take years to leave, if ever. You find it endearing. You file everything away now. You split the trip down the middle. Her half $1,200 lands in your account before you have unpacked, with a one-line message, "My share. Thanks for booking." It is exactly what two independent adults should do. And still, you sit on the edge of the $400 bed and feel the difference between a woman who could not afford to split and a woman who refuses not to, and you cannot decide which made you feel more wanted, and that you are comparing is its own answer. One evening she asks, "What is your net worth?" She asks it the way other people ask your sign. Casually, informatively. She has a spreadsheet for her own finances, and she is genuinely curious how your numbers compare. You tell her. She nods. She does not react visibly. And later, lying in a $400 room next to her, you wonder whether her lack of reaction was genuine, or its own kind of performance, the practiced stillness of someone who learned not to flinch at a number. This is the level where trust gets a hairline crack, not because anyone lied, because money introduced a variable that did not exist at zero, where there was nothing to evaluate. At $500,000, every interaction contains a faint, persistent question. Is this about me or about the number? You cannot ask it out loud. Asking it would break something. So it sits in the room like a noise only you can hear, a low hum under every dinner, every time she says your name and means it, and you wonder if meaning it is harder when there is a number behind it. Most couples with real assets sign or plan to sign a prenuptial agreement, and you are, suddenly, a couple with real assets. You have not discussed it with her, but you have thought about it. At 2 a.m, alone, you opened your phone and searched how to start a prenup conversation, the least romantic search in human history, narrowly beating whatever you searched the night before, and you read 2 articles, and you close the tab the same way you closed the artist salary tab 3 years ago. Same hand, Same hour, same quiet. You used to close tabs because the number was too small. Now you close them because the number is too big. You did not notice the moment the problem flipped. Almost no one does. Level 5, $1 million. The company sold that year, the first of 3. The number stopped being a salary and became a net worth, and Claire and you ended it the way these things end now, quietly. Like a contract expiring, no one at fault. From here, the woman changes every time the number does. You are on a dating app you did not know existed 6 months ago. It is called Raya. The acceptance rate is around 8% harder to get into than Harvard, and for the same reason. It was never about being smart. It is about who your dad knows. You were referred by someone in your network. The app does not ask for your income. It asks for your social media. It judges you by social proof and who vouched for you. Everyone is curated, selected by the same invisible filter that picked you. You go on 3 dates in 2 weeks. Each woman accomplished, calibrated, each conversation engaging, each goodbye polite. None of them feel like the couch with the $8 wine. You barely let yourself think it. But you measure each one against a Tuesday in an apartment you no longer live in, and they all come up short of a moment that cost nothing. The strange part is you do not want them to fail. You would give anything for the math to click the way it once did on a couch. But wanting it that badly is the problem, because it means you are grading connection now, scoring a thing that was never scored when it was real. The moment you measure whether something is enough, it has already answered you. You try another app. It is called Luxy. It advertises itself openly with its whole chest as the dating app minus the people who cannot afford it. No euphemism. Just capitalism finally being honest about what the other apps were doing quietly. There is income verification, a $200,000 threshold. A filter for economic compatibility sold as a feature, not a confession. You use it for 3 months. Every match arrives pre-sorted by a number you both pretend is not the reason you matched. A friend introduces you to a matchmaker, not an app, a person. She charges $25,000 for a 6-month engagement. She says, I screen for values, not just attraction. For 25 grand, the value she screened for was that you had 25 grand. She also says, my clients require all potential matches to sign a non-disclosure agreement before the first date. You go on a date she arranges. The woman is a corporate attorney. Before dinner in the car, you both sign an NDA. It says neither of you will disclose the other's identity, finances, or the evening to anyone. You sign it on the center console with a pen she keeps in her bag for exactly this. She keeps a pen for this. That is not a first date, that is a closing. Then you walk in and order wine and talk about the cities you have lived in. And the document sits folded in your jacket pocket the whole time, 3 inches from your heart. A legal guarantee that this evening, whatever it becomes, can never be spoken of. The attorney is intelligent. The dinner is pleasant. You like her, in the careful way you like everything now. Hannah never made you sign anything. Hannah brought Fox wine and told everyone she met about the mural, and there was no document anywhere on earth that governed what she was allowed to feel or say about you. You did not know that was a luxury. You thought it was just how love worked. You were wrong. That was the most expensive thing you ever owned, and you gave it away for free. Level 6, $10 million. Background checks. Your attorney recommends them. Not because you are dating someone suspicious, because at this level everyone is a risk until proven otherwise. A private investigation firm runs a standard report. Financial history, litigation, social media, public records. The report costs $3,500. You receive a 12-page document about a woman you met at a charity gala, and you read it before date 2. You know her credit history, her litigation history, her college roommate's lawsuit. You do not know her middle name. You will get that on date 3, from the report. The report is clean. You go on the second date to a restaurant where the tasting menu runs $300 a person, and across the table is a woman whose entire life you have already read in a PDF. You never mention the report. She may have run one on you too. Honestly, you hope she did. At this level, getting investigated is the closest thing left to being pursued. At this altitude, privacy is a thing you surrender for security, and neither of you is sure who surrendered more. The prenup is no longer a question. It is architecture. Your attorney drafts it before the engagement is even discussed. 70 pages. It covers asset division, intellectual property, business interests, real estate held in trusts, and a sunset clause keyed to the length of the marriage. 70 pages of romance with numbered paragraphs. The Constitution started a whole country in 4. But sure, let's make sure we both know who keeps the ski house. You read it and find yourself admiring how thorough it is, the way you would admire a well-built fence. Before you remember what a fence is for, you sign your copy at a conference table with 2 attorneys and a notary who has done this 100 times and does not look up. It takes 9 minutes. Somewhere down the hall, a printer is still warm. You think, absurdly, of a lease you once signed in a hallway with a borrowed pen, $380 a month, and how that paper felt like the beginning of something instead of the insurance policy against it. You are seeing someone now. She has her own money, $8 million. She does not need yours. Nobody is in it for the money now, which sounds healthy right up until you realize you just deleted the only thing either of you was ever sure about. It is the first time both could walk away without financial consequence. It should feel freeing. It feels like a negotiation between 2 countries with equal armies. The peace is real. The arsenal is also real. Both exist in the same room, every night on either side of the bed. You think about Hannah more often than you expected. Not romantically. You think about the absence of paperwork. No background checks, no NDAs, no attorneys, no reports. The $8 Fox wine. The pasta in an apartment where nobody had a net worth because the concept simply did not apply. You cannot get that back. You can buy almost anything, and the one thing you want is a Tuesday with a woman who had no idea what you would become, and that Tuesday is not for sale. Because the only thing that made it real was that neither of you was counting. The moment you can afford to buy it, it stops being the thing you are trying to buy. Level 7, $100 million. You cannot date outside your tier anymore. Not because of snobbery, because the power asymmetry is impossible to balance. If she earns $80,000 and you are worth $100 million, every dinner becomes an audition she did not know she walked into, and you become a judge who cannot stop judging. You would put a saint on trial. You will always wonder. She will always perform. Both of you call it love, because the alternative is admitting the number in your account made unscripted intimacy impossible. So you date within the tier. Women with their own wealth, attorneys, background check firms. Dates arranged through intermediaries, at private clubs where both of you were vetted before you arrived. The chemistry is real. It is just stage managed by 6 professionals and a mutual NDA, like a Coachella set, and you have stopped noticing how strange that is. You sit across from her at dinner. She is extraordinary, beautiful, accomplished, self-made. She tells a story about her company's early years that makes you laugh in a way you have not in months. The kind that comes up before you can decide whether to allow it. For 11 seconds, you forget. You forget the NDA and the background check and the 70-page draft and the report your attorney sent yesterday. For 11 seconds, it is just 2 people at a table, her eyes bright, and you are not calculating anything. Then the waiter brings the check. You reach for it. She reaches for it. A half-second negotiation conducted entirely through eye contact who pays, and whether paying is generosity or a power move or an insult to her independence. The 11 seconds are over. They were the best part of your year. People at 0 get 3 hours and complain about the parking. The dinner bill is $2,000. Neither of you looks at it. A number that would have fed you and Hannah for 2 months passes between 2 people without registering. And that, more than anything, is the measure of how far you have climbed. The money stopped being something you noticed. It became the water you swim in. And somewhere in turning invisible, it took the one thing that made a $12 date feel like a fortune. You drive home. The city is quiet. You think about the 11 seconds, about whether 11 seconds is enough to build a life on. You think about Hannah, the couch, the Fox wine. 3 hours of unscripted connection on the first date, not 11 seconds. 3 hours because back then there was no number large enough to interrupt. She is still painting. You know this because you looked her up once, at 2 a.m, the way you have looked up everything you could not stop thinking about. Her work has gotten better. She has a small following now. She is with someone. He looks kind. He looks like he earns what she earns, like he can take her on a $12 date and have it mean everything. You close the tab. You have a graduate degree in closing tabs by now. It does not help. Level 8, $1 billion. The room you are in tonight is the best room you have ever been in. The view is the kind people photograph from the street below. The woman across from you is one of maybe a few hundred people on Earth who could be your equal. And the relationship between you is not a relationship. It is mergers and acquisitions with better lighting. Dating at this level is no longer 2 people deciding to be together. It is 2 estates evaluating an alliance. There are family offices involved firms that manage fortunes like yours. with staff whose entire job is your money. And to them, a new girlfriend is just a security breach in a nice dress. There are advisors with opinions on whether the pairing is strategically sound, and people whose whole job is reconciling the holdings. When you consider a future with someone, a team of professionals quietly considers it with you, and they are not thinking about the way she laughs. She has her own billion. Neither of you needs the other's money, which is supposed to make it pure. Two people who could not possibly be in it for the cash. It does not make it pure. It makes it a treaty. Two dynasties drawing a border, agreeing what happens to the territory if the peace ends. Affection gets routed through institutions. A gift is a transaction the foundation reviews. A spontaneous weekend away now requires a jet, a security detail, and 3 assistants. Spontaneous. You have not done a spontaneous thing since you could afford to. Even the words get heavy. You say I love you, and a tiny accountant in the back of your head goes noted, pending review. Even those 3 words arrive with a net worth attached, and once you have learned to hear that, you cannot unhear it. You hear it in your voice and in hers. You take her to dinner on a terrace above a city that glitters like a circuit board, and the meal costs more than your first car, and she reaches across the table and takes your hand. It is a lovely gesture, and a small, trained part of your mind notes it, files it, quietly asks what it is for. You hate that part of your mind. You cannot turn it off. It is the part the money built, and it does not sleep. This is the best room you have ever been in, and it is the emptiest you have ever felt sitting in a chair. And those 2 facts are not a coincidence. They are the same fact, measured 2 ways. Used to look Hannah up. You do not anymore. Because you finally understood it hurts more than it helps. No version of opening that tab ends with you feeling better. Only a sharper picture of what money cannot return. So you leave it closed. You sit in the best room in the world and leave the one door you actually want to open closed. On purpose. Because being an adult at this altitude means knowing exactly what you traded and choosing not to look at it. There is only one number left above this one. You already suspect it will not be different, only more and more by now is the one thing you have learned to stop hoping for. Level 9, $100 billion. At this number you are not rich. Rich was 4 houses ago. You are an institution that happens to have a face, a country with a pulse. Governments track what you do. Markets move when you speak. Your name is on buildings you have never entered, and love, at this level, is a line item on a balance sheet that an entire nation watches. There is almost no one left who can meet you as an equal. The few who exist are scattered across continents, behind the same walls and teams. A relationship here is the alignment of 2 centers of gravity. When you reach for someone, planets shift. Nothing is unscripted. Nothing can be. The infrastructure that keeps you safe has sealed every door an accident could enter through, and love, the real kind, was always an accident. It only ever happened to people who were not protected. You could buy the coffee shop where you met her, the block it sits on, the building, the garage behind it where the mural is probably painted over by now. You cannot buy the man who once walked in on his lunch break with no idea what anything was worth. That man is the single asset you can never acquire. And he is the only one anyone ever actually loved. So you sit at the top of everything and remember the truest thing you have ever felt. It was not in any of these rooms. It was a couch that cost $200 and a bottle of wine that cost $8, and a woman who had paint on her jeans and no idea what you would become. 3 hours on a first date, pasta on a Tuesday. A lease split because love and math, for one brief season of your life, arrived at the same answer. That version of love did not survive the money. Not because love is weak, and not because money is evil. That is the lie they sell you, so you keep running at it, because money is heavy. It sits on every chair in every room, and it changes the weight of every word, until even I love you has a price you can hear underneath it. And you cannot unhear the number once you have learned to hear it. You have tried. There is no app, no attorney, no amount that buys back the silence you used to be able to afford. 0 was the only level where love was free. Everything after it was a payment plan. You climbed every level, and each one gave you more and charged you the same thing, the only thing that ever actually mattered. Until you reached the top with everything in your hands, and the one Tuesday you wanted most folded up somewhere behind you. Priceless precisely because it once cost nothing. You will not be at 0 again. This was the story of who you became at every level of wealth, from a $12 date to a foundation reviewing your heart, and what each number quietly took. The thing money buys least, it turns out, is the version of you that did not yet know what money was. If this hit something in you, subscribe, leave a like, and tell me in the comments what level you are on right now and where in the world you are watching from. I read them. I always do.